Let's dive in. We're going back in. We're going audio only right here. We're doing it 2 times tonight. See, we can still do that. We still have that technology to be able to do that. Diving in, talking to one of our favorite dudes. I mean, one of my favorite guys. Hell, I chased him for a lot of years and learned a lot of things from him. Going to jump in and tell some stories. It is our man, Webberville, Texas, now where he resides. Heath Stewart. How we doing, my brother?
Pretty good, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing well, my man. What's going on this evening, man? What talk about your race weekend? You race this weekend. How'd it go for you, man?
You know, we didn't have a bad weekend. Finished second, not exactly what we wanted, but it's better than we've done the last few races. So the car wasn't tore up with no damage. So it was a pretty good night.
That's the main thing.
So, we were hoping you'd be, actually, let me phrase that. I was hoping that you'd be on video, Heath, just because I could want to see you and Rodney blush at the same time if we hit one of the old stories that neither one of y'all really wanted to tell. So anyway, but it's fine that you're on the phone. We still make it happen the old school way. So Rodney and I alluded to at the beginning of the night that you have raced for a long time and you've raced a little bit of everything. Thinking back to your archive, what is the first memory that you have of being at a racetrack? Do you remember how old you were and what you were doing?
Oh, I think we lost him. We'll get him back right now. There we go. I think we got him. You there, my man? Yep. One more time. I heard him blip off, but all right, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. How about that, Heath? We got you, man. Okay, well, we're going to try it again. We're going to try it one more time. We lost him there, but stand by. There's a good look right there at Heath's car. And, man, that was the question I wanted to hear right there, but we'll ask it here in just a second. Again, BC, hold on one second here. Getting in a quick text message, and we'll go the other direction with him.
Oh, have him call us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Every now and then, that's a whole thing. That's why I don't get rid of the good old revved up hotline, because you never know when you're going to need it, depending on some circumstances. So we'll wait on Heath here in just a second.
Well, if he's in Webberville, he ain't got no internet service and cell service anyway out there. So
yeah, well, that's all right. We'll try the backup plan and see if we can get him. And as a matter of fact, I see the old hotline hitting it up right now. So we'll try it once again. Heath, do we have you, my man?
All right, I'm here.
Look at that shit. How about that, my friend? All right, Bobby, try it one more time, dude. Bobby had the first one out of the hole.
I had the good one. So I don't know how much you heard for it before, but I'll repeat the whole thing. So Rodney and I were talking about it before the show, when the show first started, that you have raced a little bit of everything and raced a long time, and your family's been involved for a long time. So if you can remember, what is your first memory of being at a racetrack, and how old do you think you were when you had that memory?
Boy, I would guess the oldest memory I have is probably when my grandfather raced, and I don't know how, it's probably 3 or 4, maybe, I don't know, but he would always give me he'd drink to the end of his beer and give me the last sip. So that was my first memory of racing that I think I can really remember. And it was might have been like Pan American, which I don't even remember the track, but I do have pictures from being there.
So Heath, that explains why when you said that your memory gets fuzzy, that explains why right there. God damn it. Come on,
yeah,
Jake.
I guess so. Too many years.
Come on, Jake. So Heath, let's talk. So the start for you, I mean, when you jump into the early 90s there in the street stocks over there at Speedorama, talk about those days. I mean, I think when you probably really started getting fired up was racing with Monaco Reyes. Kind of talk about those days.
Yeah, that's a funny story. So most people don't know that I have Danny Stewart's my stepdad, and my real dad was Jim Boring.
That's right.
He was an iron worker, so they were real slow at work, and it was kind of a slow period. And he would work over there at Monaco, helping him on body work, and I'd go over there after school. And I don't know, you remember Fat Pat?
Oh, yeah.
Back from they had built a car for him the year before, and I was over with my dad, and Pat had gained a little more weight over the winter, and couldn't fit in the fire suit they got him the year before. So it was like a Wednesday, and Monaco asked me if I wanted to drive that car, and we were going to race it on Friday night, I guess, or Saturday. I don't remember when we raced back then at Longhorn, but so we, and we got it to where we could fit in the car, and it was a black car with pink seat, window net, and numbers. And went out. I think we went out and practiced on a Thursday, and then we raced the next night. And I think I almost won my first heat race. I was lapping a car, and I got a little too close to him, cut my left front. And then if I remember right, they put me on the pole and went off in the first corner, and I spun completely around in front of everybody. And they said, we're going to restart you. And I said, no, I'm just going to put me in the back. That got it. I was a little nervous after that. But that was back when we had some major car counts. I mean, we'd have to run B mains, and that was a lot of fun back then.
Sure was.
So you talk about that though, like obviously racing got more expensive and the purses have stayed the same. And we've had that discussion here and there, and everybody else has, but we often talk about on here, the good old days, right? When you were in it back in the good old days, you didn't know it was the good old days. You were just racing because it was a lot of fun. How much different has it changed from back then to now? Is it still the same basic concept of going to the racetrack, competing, and having the good camaraderie with your competitors and your friends and stuff like that? Or was it different back in the day versus what it is now?
I don't know if it was different. It was a lot simpler back in the days.
Yeah.
Cars were a lot easier to work on, a lot easier to afford. Tires lasted longer. And, one of the downfalls of asphalt was all the classes going to radios and mirrors, but, we didn't know how good we had it at Longhorn. I mean, we were ready for Thunder Hill to open up, but we lost something that you can't, we could never replace.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough because, looking back, that was hard, fun track to race on. And same thing like going to Corpus, just tight and hard racing. So it's changed a lot. And then since I went to dirt, it's more like it was when I first started racing. You show up on Saturday, you get 2 practice sessions on asphalt back then, I think, and you raced. And, it got to where it was just too hard to go on Fridays and do all that. So when I went to dirt, it was a lot simpler, especially with my daughters. And then when Taylor started racing, it definitely the timers got a lot harder to squeeze it all in. So I've had a good time with dirt.
Yeah. That's one of the things with asphalt. I mean, it's like you're there all day. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're sitting on your hands, not doing anything. You're playing with yourself. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we supposed to be doing here? So kind of, so let's, talking about with Monaco and everything that you did there, let's fast forward to 1995. That's when I started over there full time at Longhorn, and you were in that green 32. Talk about that year, man. That car, son of a bitch. Heath, there was a race. I started on the pole because I was not any good. And finally, I'm getting my shit together. I start on the pole. I have this thing won. I'm like leading by many, many laps or many, a straightaway. The caution comes out at the end, and I'm like, I'm still going to win. We got like 3 laps to go, and there you go. I'm like, come on, man. Talk about that year, dude. That car was amazing.
Oh, that was a fun car to drive. And, my dad was just a master at setting them up. I mean, with the stock suspension. Yeah. I mean, I think that was 95, the first year I built the car, that's the year I won the championship. So 94 was my first season in the car. And I don't know if you know a lot about caster, but when Danny started out, he run me with negative caster.
Wow.
So the right front ball joint would be forward because you couldn't get enough caster in it. But he thought you couldn't put enough caster in it to make it work. So we went negative caster, and back then we didn't run power steering at all. So that helped with having a negative caster. Well, towards the end of that year, he put, I don't know how much caster he put in it, but it had so much caster in it that if you let go of the steering wheel, you were in the infield. And it was like different. And I went off in the first corner. I was like, all right, now I can drive the car.
Yeah.
And at the end of the race, we started in the back in the heat race, started in the back in the feature and went straight to the front. car was a rocket. And I came in, I couldn't feel my arms. I was like, this thing is hard to drive. And he's like, you want to change it back? I was like, no, I'm going to get a weight bench. I mean, this thing's too fast. So
That's what I'm saying.
those were good times.
They were, man. They really were.
So Heath, we've seen a lot of things. So you've raced a lot of things and moved up methodically through the ladder. You ran in street stocks, won in street stocks, moved to a super stock, limited late model. You ran in that, and then you started running supers. How was it just a money thing, or was it a development thing for you to determine when it was the right time to move up a class versus you see some of these guys that race the same class forever and ever and ever? Like, when did you know that it was the right time? Was it just simply money? Somebody come along, say, here's a bucket load of cash, we're going to run you in supers, or how did you determine that deal?
You know, I don't think it was a money deal. My whole deal has always been that I start out with the minimum equipment I can have for that class because I just don't have the money to do it. And then it takes me a few years to get everything I really need. And then I finally get the car where it's fast. Mm-hmm. And then I not get bored with it, but I feel like I need to go to the next stage. Mm-hmm. And at every class I've ever done, it's always taken me 2 to 3 years to get what I need. And maybe to get my, adjusted. I'm not a quick at adjusting to the different driving styles. So, but moving up was just because I guess looking for more of a challenge when I felt like I had it, figured out, and then we'd move up. So I've been stuck in these sport months for a while now. Hadn't quite got there yet.
You'll be fine, my man. So you win a super late model championship. Talk about that. That season. You were just the mark of consistency. You were, and that was, that's back when, super late models around here were loaded, and you were just so good. And then at that final race, if you remember that, that final race when you win that championship, not a very easy thing to win that title that night.
No, that was an interesting weekend. We had the double features. I don't know if we had a makeup race or what it was, but we had double features. And the first race, somebody blew a tire, and I saw him happen, and he was up against the fence, and then he come across the track and drove straight over the front of the car. And which is an interesting story because we had made a hood for Kevin Soberg that had cancer. And all the drivers signed the hood on the car, and we were going to give it to him after the races. And it took out both fenders, the bumper, everything was taken out. The only thing that survived was the hood. It didn't have a piece of damage on it. So I think I went in the pits, and they pulled all the front end off the car. The suspension and stuff was fine on the car. It was just all cosmetic. And got back out there and finished the race. And then while I was out there, somebody blew an oil line coming off of turn 2 right in front of me. And I slapped the fence with the back of the car now. So now the front's tore up, the back's tore up. The car looks like it just needs to go to a junkyard. So we finished the first race, actually do finish it, and not very good. And we come into the pits, and I'm just like ready to load it up. And let's see, Greg Davison's the one that came over there. He come over and he said, he just kind of got me away from the car, and he said, "Just get out of the way. We're going to fix your car." Oh. And it was I don't know how many people were working on it. I never get to just sit there and watch people work on my car completely. And I just sat back and watched them. And I had Bubba Nauman and Casey Smith. They were working on the back of the car. And Todd McLemore, he had broke something, and they literally took from the front doors all the way forward. It had his whole front end on my car when I went back on the track for the second one. And it fit perfect too. And they were like, "Well, put the hood back on." I was like, "No, we're not putting that hood back on. We're going to tear it up."
Yeah.
So it didn't get any damage, and we was able to give it to him at the end of the night. And we were able to finish I passed one car. I needed to pass one car on the last lap and to be able to win the championship. And I passed them, I think, going in the middle of 3 and 4. And it was one of the only times I've ever used my bumper to pass somebody, but I did. It was actually Tom Gerthew, and I went over and apologized. And he said, "Oh, no problem. I understand. It was for a championship or something." So, but I've never been real good at using the bumper. I don't never taught myself how to use it to pass somebody. So,
no doubt, love that.
But that was an exciting weekend. That year was. the car we fought the car a lot from the time we bought it. We bought it up north. And after I won the championship, I went to get a new car and called, I think it was Port City. And I was talking to them about the car and wow, the struggles I had with it. And they went back and they came back and told me, so, well, after everything you just told us, the car is an outlaw chassis. Oh, it's not designed to be a template car.
Oh my!
So you're supposed to be running 50 to 62% left side weight in that car, and we were running like 57.
Yeah.
Which is why I never could get in. I always had to keep the car so loose.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, it would overheat the right front tire because the roll center was wrong in it. So I wish I would have actually had the right car in the right chassis, or they actually told me to change all the frame lights on the car, and the car was a whole bunch better as a pro late model.
Yeah.
When we switched over,
Yeah.
but that was I knew I could drive better than that, but I just couldn't quite get there. I always had it was just the top 3 car. I mean, that was the best, all year long.
Yeah.
I could, finish in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
But,
so Heath, what was your favorite track, dude? I mean, you ran Longhorn, San Antonio, Corpus, probably got a chance to run up in Midland and stuff like that. So what was it? Was it the flat track at Longhorn, or was it the big high speed, high bank down there at San Antonio?
I never was a real fan of Sync. I liked it, but I never really got a hold of it. Maybe it was that car that I had. It was because I kept it so free. I would say my favorite track was Longhorn, but Houston's probably right next to it. I mean, if Longhorn was around, it'd be hard to pass. There's an asphalt track that I want to go race at. I love racing Houston, so always had that track's always fit me good, but it was never my lucky track. I could be leading a race and blow a power steering line or something, but that's probably my favorite track to drive on, especially back when we had when they were doing the Madhouse rules and all that before it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Speaking of that, how was it? So you dive into the Teague car a few weeks back. How was it to be back on asphalt? How did it feel to have to be finesse again?
I thought it was going to be kind of weird, but it took about a half a lap, and I was right back to where I felt comfortable in it. It was fun, and I had a good time doing it. It was hot out there. I mean, I think I picked the hottest weekend to go. But yeah, I had a good time in it. I wish we'd had more cars to race against. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
So Heath, I had this unique question for you, and I always ask this with the multi-generational racers. Did you have more fun racing with Danny? Did you have more fun racing with Marianne, or do you have more fun racing with Taylor? Which part of it do you enjoy the most? Or are they all the same?
With Taylor, I have a lot of fun. I'm really nervous. I pace around, and I'm ready for the race to be over as soon as it starts. But I'm really, really enjoying it right now. If I'm ever going to quit racing, I could see quitting right now and just helping her. Especially the last half season, we've gotten our car a lot better. We figured out that her front mass cylinder was bad, probably for a while, and that's why she wouldn't run it off in the corners. And I kept figuring that there was. She kept telling me it won't slow down, and I kept checking everything, and everything seemed fine. But it actually I sent Dylan down the road with it. He came back. He said, "You couldn't slide the tires in this car if you had to." So we figured out what was wrong with the brakes, and everybody's asking me what we changed, and that's what we changed with the front mass cylinder on it. And since we've done that, I mean, I'm having a blast watching her, and every race she's improving.
She really is.
But it's fun to see her get out smiling and enjoying it. It's something that I've loved my whole life.
Yep.
So
that's what it's all about. Got to ask you, man, because a lot of people ask me about this race. Remember back in 1995, that year that you were, you were the champ there in Austin. You, Jake, myself, was a few others when we all went to Corpus for that big old race. You remember that weekend? That was fun. That was some good times out there.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was a good time. we had a lot of fun. I only got to race Corpus a few times. I really struggled there in the super late model. So we finally got John Myers told us a race there. We kept changing the whole setup when we go there on super. And John told my dad, if the race is, just bring it down here with your San Antonio setup. It'll be fast. And we unloaded right off the trailer, and it was like driving a different car. I was just trying to run the car too soft, and we changed it there. And I think we went from every race we were like qualifying dead last to, I think I was either second or third. It was me, Casey, and Eddie. We were all top three. And so it was, and then that was the last time I raced there. But we finally figured something out, and that was it.
Yep, absolutely.
But that was a fun track.
It was.
It was fast for about 2 laps with that super, and then the bumps down the back straightaway after the tires got hot. It starts spinning the tires when it bouncing through them. But it was a fun place to run.
That's right.
See, he's ran it all. He's done it all. Now we're trying to figure out. So what was your favorite car? I mean, is it all the way back to the street stock back in '95, or did you like your limited late model? Was it your super? Hell, was it your TSRS car? I mean, you run them all. Which one was your favorite? Do you have one?
That silver one was nice. Remember that one, Heath?
The Firebird. That was my favorite car.
Yeah.
And then I will say I had a good time in my dirt street stock that we built, which is funny. That was Garland Moffat's car that he ran in at Longhorn.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I got it out of a field, and we turned it into pure stock, me and Tommy Hubach. So and then we just kind of converted it. It started out as a pure stock, and then we just turned it into a street stock. Tommy left on a Saturday after the races and came home. There was a pile of metal on the track. I was sitting there on the floor, and he thought, "There's no way we're going to put the same back together." But that was a fun car. But I can't beat the Firebird in my limited. That car there was a good car. It was easy to drive. My dad was building it for himself, and I moved up from the street stocks, sold my street stock, and he gave me that car, and we finished it. It was a challenge to figure out. It's one of those cars, like the first season and a half, I wanted to quit. And then once we got it figured out, and it was a brake issue that we were having on it. What it was is the rear brake line where you got the rubber line and it's got the T. It was never fully drilled out by the manufacturer. It had a pinhole so you could bleed the brakes, but as soon as you got and tried to use the brakes hard, it would just have all front brake.
Yeah.
So once we figured that out, that was a great car.
It's crazy.
Oh, my turn again? Or you turn?
No,
Rodney's over reminiscing about the good old days. He's like, he's got that stargazing in his eyes. If you catch him, he's gonna look up on the wall because he's got some of the old pictures in the studio, them old Novas and that black Camaro that he loved so much before he tore it up in San Antonio.
32 passing me. It's that green 32 going by. So
I remember me and Rodney went to a NASCAR race together years ago.
That's
remember
right.
that in Atlanta?
Remember, you and I had never flown before. Remember that?
Nope. Shit? Yeah. When we sat in first class,
they put us in first class. You remember they put them towels in front of us, and I'm like, is this a fucking tortilla or what is this?
Yeah, we didn't know what to do with them. That was funny. We started looking around to see what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, Marianne had loaded us up with Dramamine, and we'd never flown before, and Jake's over there giving us shit. Oh yeah, dude. Yes,
yeah,
I forgot about that.
I don't even know what year that was in.
Oh, dude, it was 94, 95. Something
was
it? Heath, you mentioned earlier about Thunder Hill. So talk about that. So we had all kind of honed our teeth there at Austin, Elroy, and here we go to Kyle. A little bit of a different thing right there. No walls at front straightaway and all that. Little bit of room to race. Your transition, you did it well. Talk about those days, man. That was a great place to race also.
That was a good time. I mean, it was a lot harder to pass on her. You had to be, Longhorn, you could throw it in there and get beside. Once you could get beside somebody, then you could pass them on the outside. It wasn't that way at Thunder Hill. You had to actually be faster, or you went from everybody trying to pass on the outside to trying to get underneath them coming off a four.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, I think I was probably one of the first 5 cars to get on the track when they had that little open practice before they were still building the track. And I found the groove to the track first time on it because everybody thought you would want to go up by the fence down the front straightaway. And I was like, that's too far around. I don't need to. I mean, so it was like, once you figured out how to get up off the 4 there, that's the first year I caught onto it real good, and it took people a little longer some of the guys to get it up off of 4, because if you got in the gas too soon, it actually hurts you. Yeah, that was a little transition, but it was a lot of fun. And then a few years later, we lost Longhorn, but it was definitely nice having that facility. Just hate to see it gone.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, hell, they're all gone, but Houston now. So we, asphalt wise, anyways.
Yeah.
So talk about running there at Cotton Bowl. Obviously, it's totally different than what you've ever done. It's got the high speed, a big bank, stuff like that. Do you still consider yourself a dirt guy now, or are you still a work in progress dirt? I mean, you got a couple of championship trophies sitting up in the shop. I mean, you got to be able to figure it out somehow, right?
I think I got the dirt figured out. I mean, I struggled with tacky tracks at first. I mean, for a long time, when the track dried off, I was good. But when heat races, I was trying to talk my dad out of changing everything on the car when we came in. I was like, when it dries off, we're going to be good. But right now, the car, I didn't understand what changes to make to the car to loosen it up. And now I'm struggling more with dry, but I think it's just a setup I've come up with. And I'm trying to figure that out now, but I got the tacky part down. So I guess I'm kind of turned into a real dirt driver now that I want it to be tacky. But used to, I want it to be dry all the time.
Isn't that the weird part? I mean, when you're a pavement driver, I mean, that never changes. You can get a setup in there. I mean, it may get hotter. I mean, tire changes, all these different things. But with dirt, it's like, man, when I first was on dirt in the dwarf car, I was like you. I mean, I'd go out in the heat race. I sucked. And we wouldn't change the car because we didn't know what to do. And then main event with the same setup, I'd be hauling ass. I mean, it's like on dirt, it's always changing. I mean, that kind of is a big difference right there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like the challenges more there. I mean, asphalt it's repetitive. Your car's and on asphalt, your car's got to be right.
Yeah.
You can't make up for it in driving as much as on dirt. You can find another line that'll work for you.
Yep.
That part of it's a lot of fun, and it took me a while to be able to read the track and learn where to go for the track conditions and get a feel for it. So I've gotten better at that now, but it's still a challenge for me. I mean, there's some good drivers in dirt. I mean, anywhere you go, especially South Texas, all those cars are really fast. When I go there, I haven't been to Waco with it. I want to go, but it's hard to go up there on a Friday.
Yeah.
And race on a Friday night from here. But and we got to change gear to go there and stuff. So I try a little different. I run the crate motor in mine, so it's a little different on the way you drive it and set it up. It kind of fits me better because the harder I throw it in to the corner, the more it bogs the motor. So I have to drive a little more like asphalt getting in just to keep the bind out of the car. So it kind of fits me better.
Yeah.
And it fits my pocketbook a little better.
Yeah, no shit on that.
Yeah.
So Heath, let's go back and talk about Tommy for a minute. Man, he is a true blue soldier, and I don't think people give him credit for as long as he's been around in this stuff. I mean, he knows his stuff too. Him and Russell both are kind of unsung with their knowledge of setting these cars up and being there. But talk about Tommy for a minute. I know there for the longest time, I could always tell when it was a heat race because he was up in the grandstands filming you ready to race.
Oh yeah, Tommy's great to be. He's been a ton of help. He's just a good friend. I probably wouldn't even be racing anymore if it wasn't for Tommy. I just had a good time. I have a good time with him. But when we got done with asphalt, I just couldn't afford it anymore, and I was tired of chasing Joe Armadillo. I couldn't outrun him on the modified, so I was like, well, we're just going to hang it up here.
Yeah.
So Tommy, we just threw a little pure stock together and went out there to play, and then it just kind of took off from there. I mean, once I got on dirt the first time, I was like, this is a lot of fun. So, I mean, the first time we ran on dirt with the pure stock, we put it together, and we thought we were going to race with pure stocks. I mean, it's like we had the rules and we were running street tires on it and got out there and got lapped. I mean, it wasn't even funny. So, and then their motors, they had some motors. It was Danny Bennett that was just, killing everybody in that class. So we took it home and we got some dirt tires and went to work on it. And the motor wasn't up to par, and we just went ahead and pulled my 604 out of my modified and put it in the car. And Danny would probably like to know that too, because I could push him around the track for 2 weeks. He didn't quite know why I had so much power until we got our other motor built. So that was probably one of the times I cheated on purpose, but it was a little embarrassing to go out there and get lapped. And but once we got the other motor built, we stuck it in there and we had the car figured out. Then we had a lot of fun running that. But yeah, there's been some good times with Tommy. He's right there by me. He's here every weekend helping me on stuff. You know, he's a great friend, and definitely wouldn't be doing it without him.
Yeah. Heath, before we turn you loose, I do want to ask you, you mentioned there with, first of all, for Jim, you know, sorry that we lost Jim here about a month and a half ago. Very sorry for that loss there with Jim Boring. Very, very good man right there.
Yes.
I do want to ask you, Danny Stewart. I mean, that's a guy with all these memories that are popping up with San Antonio and all this. I mean, I grew up watching Danny Stewart race and watching him do things and getting advice from him once I became a racer there, and Jake Jr. and Jake. Kind of talk about Danny Stewart. That guy right there, he could write a book on doing this stuff because he's just really, really good at what he does.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he made it easy for me to start racing. I can't imagine somebody starting a racing without somebody knowing, you know, just going around asking questions and do it, especially back when, you know, Rodney, I mean, you started racing, there was no internet to learn. You had to figure it out, or what we read in the magazines that we get in the mail. That was about how we learned stuff. And he made it easy on me to transition to racing, and he gave up a lot to let me race. And, you know, he was really good. I mean, he just gave it up to let me race, in which a lot of the parents have done that over the years. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he's 75 years old now, and you wouldn't know it out the racetrack. I mean, he's still out there with me every weekend. Yeah. And probably could still get in a race car and go.
I'm sure he could. I'm sure he could. Yep.
So Heath, funny story, dude. One of my good buddies that was the best man at my wedding, he sent me a random text one day. He says, "I'm sitting here with some of your local heroes." I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, "I'm sitting here on a movie set talking racing with Danny Stewart and Ron Chambers." Oh hell. I said, I bet they got some racing stories that you wouldn't believe. I said, then I texted back, said, and they had some badass hot rods back in the day. He says, oh, they telling stories now. He says you can only be a fly on the wall listening to some of these. So I think it's funny that they made the connection there, that they used to be some, I say used to be some badass racers. They are still some badass racers. So Danny, I always remember the Hall Chiropractic car. That's from when I first started coming around. I remember that Monte Carlo. So, but Danny he always kicked ass there in Longhorn for sure. That was a lot. He used to put on some great racing up there.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, he always did everything his own, you know, himself. He didn't have anybody telling him what to do. He, you know, on suspension, he did it. He just he's had a knack for it. And he gets kind of mad at me when I started listening to everybody on dirt. And then the last 2 years, we just kind of went and start doing what I feel like we need to do, not what everybody else is doing. And he's been a lot happier with me on that. He didn't like me just going and following what everybody else said to do. And that's how he's always been. He's kind of taught himself. And, you know, I hate that he didn't help me much when, after him, my mom separated when I was running the super late models. So I really wish he'd have been able to help me there. I think I could have done a lot better in him.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. And I think somewhere along the line, Danny and my dad and Benny, they realized that somehow they had been in some sort of was Danny in the military? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in Vietnam.
Somehow those two were together, connected in Vietnam. Somehow they realized that at Sean Gremlin's party at Southwestern Motor Rebuilders one night, your championship party, and I think
that was a party, wasn't it?
God, that was a party. I left all my dinner in the keg. That was they realized that they were like in the same platoon or some shit. And
Wow.
just the way you're talking about Danny, I'm like, that's very much the way Dad is. So yeah, good dudes right there.
Well, that's real. Never heard that one.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. True thing. So for you, rest of the year, Cotton Bowl, I know you got championship night coming up. You got to take care of that. What are you going to do? Are you going to travel? I mean, I know now, I mean, it's a lot harder with kiddos and family stuff and all that. Are you going to go out and hit some of these after the year things, 37 or South Texas or any of those things?
We plan on it, but we're having a little bit of issues with the motor right now. So if I can't figure that out, I don't think I'm going to waste my time.
Mm-hmm.
And, the motor's just got I think it's fourth and fifth season on the motor. It's got about 90 races on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's race night. So it's just getting a little weak. But if I can figure out what's going on, it just seems to be a little down on power. I don't want to, I saw the I-37 race they're going to have, and I'm like, man, I'm ready to go. And then after this last weekend, I'm like, no, I don't know if I want to go up there and just ride around. So we'll see if we can figure it out. I'm hoping it's something we can figure out. I mean, everything seems to be fine on it. Just doesn't seem to have the power. So if we get that figured out, then yeah, we'll definitely hit some of the end of the season races.
No doubt. BC, I'm done. You have anything else, my man? There's still lots that we can talk about.
There's still lots of stories that could go on. Let's talk about Marianne for a second, just to bring her into the conversation, because she raced for a long time. Did you and her get to race street stocks together, or did she run one of your old cars back when she was running street stocks at Longhorn? I don't remember.
Yes.
No, she got my car.
She spun me out several times in that old green Nova when I was in her way.
Yeah.
This is true. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so she took over my car after I moved up. So yeah, we'd never raced against each other at all. I have raced against my dad a little bit in the street stock, but not much. But yeah.
I still think people forget how badass Marianne was a driver. She didn't put up with we know she don't put up with no shit now. But she didn't put up with no shit back in the day when she was a race car driver either.
Yeah, I mean she ran the Golden Girls, and then she decided she wanted to start racing with the guys, and now that's not uncommon at all. There's not really much reason to have Golden Girls anymore like we used to, but the girls are definitely just as fast as the guys nowadays. So, but she was one of the ones that got out there and raced with them. And I think the last year she raced, she finished third in points, and she won a feature that year. And that was back when Robert was so fast. He was tough to race against.
Yep.
And he helped me with my car, the street stock, and then when I moved up, then he built him a car. So then he started racing against my mom. So it was but they had some. She'd get mad at him coming in because he was always sideways when he was passing, but he was passing. So he was fast, and there's a lot of stories. I mean, like I saw a picture online the other day of Russell, and I think Russell was probably 12 years old when he just showed up at the track. I mean, his mom would drop him off at the racetrack, get him a pit pass, and he didn't really know anybody, I don't think, and he'd come over to my pit, and I think he helped me it still helps me, but hardcore helped me for at least 4 or 5 years there. And then he's been back when I ran the modified, but he's helped a lot of people over the years, Casey, and he's just been, now he helps Johnny. So he's always helping somebody with a fast car.
He really was. I mean, I think even back in those times, she would drop him off, and he lived in Maxwell, and we all lived in Lockhart. I mean, I think we would drop him off at home. It was like right in the middle of our commute back, and it's like he'd be like, "Can I get a ride?" And of course, Dad's like, "He ain't gonna turn nobody down." I mean, not that I would either, but and we just drop him off. I'm like, man, I hope this is like his house. But that's a good dude right there. Good old.
He showed up, and he's like a brother. So
he's a good dude.
So he's like our family. So
he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
As you are, my man. This has been a lot of fun, dude. It's been fun catching up, and hell, we've been doing it online. How about that? So,
yeah.
There you go, man. Well, as always, man, congratulations on everything you've done. It's really cool that you got a kid out there now. You got kids and doing all this stuff. Always a pleasure talking to you, dude. We got to do this hell of a lot more often than we do.
Well, I appreciate it. It's good talking to y'all.
Yep.
Hey Heath, now you got to talk to the Duke. You got to talk Jake into doing one of these shows one night, because it'll be unfiltered, and he's got to do video, because I want to see him blushing when him and Rodney start talking about some old stories. That would be a great show right there.
Stories from the pole in the parking lot, right?
Oh, God. I am not to go there, my man. I was not going to go there. So we'll just call it good. Jake will get all excited, and he won't be able to breathe and say words at the same time. So yeah, good stuff, brother. Heath, thank you, my man. I'm sure that that I will see you very, very soon.
All right, thank y'all. Talk to you later.
Take care, dude. There he goes. He's Stewart, the man. God damn it, Bob. Why you got to bring that up? Yeah, Heath is like, I don't remember things. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you racers never forget shit. You racers never forget.
Oh man, I'll tell you, great conversation right there. The whole thing with him is it really is. I mean, people that see him, racing out at CBS, and when they go on the road, I mean, that dude, I mean, winning. I mean, seriously, that. I had no idea about the car that he was talking about, that super late model back in those days. I mean, it made sense. And he won that championship because it was. You go back and you look at that, and Heath was third, fourth. And he was like leading the championship. And then that night it was a disaster right there at the end. And but he found a way to win the championship. And I
think he started out that season with a 15-point penalty, because the way the nose was mounted to the body or something like that. If it's the season.